Hey everyone, Miguel Benitez here, trying to help you on your journey toward a thoughtful Christianity. The question that I want to tackle today is, does the style of art matter? As humans, we run into different art forms all the time. And as Christians, we want to be careful about the kind of art that we're exposing ourselves to on a day-to-day basis. You see, many times when I hear Christians talk about art, it seems, or at least the impression that is given, is that all that matters is the content of the art, the message of the art, but not the style itself. So as long as a particular art piece has a good message, the style of painting, the style of music, the style of movie or film doesn't really matter. What matters most is just the message that's being communicated. And so I want to explore that a little bit further today and hopefully give us some things to think about. In his book, Art and the Bible, Francis Schaeffer does us a great favor of thinking through Christian evaluation of the arts from a biblical perspective. And he gives us 11 key points toward evaluation of art. Point number 8 is this. He says, there is no such thing as a godly style or an ungodly style. And again, that's what I typically do hear from Christians. But is that right? Or is there something more to the style of art itself? As an example, I want to point us to the art style of Impressionism. Now, you may be familiar with Impressionism, and perhaps great painters like Monet and Renoir come to mind. And we think, what's wrong with that, right? They've painted these beautiful paintings, and they've left a lasting legacy on the art world. As long as the content is okay, as long as the message is okay, then there's nothing wrong with the art in itself. But is that really true? You see, the more that you read about Impressionism, you come to find that it's rooted, it's steeped in a strict empiricism, in the idea that reality is what we perceive through our senses. There is nothing more than that. So you see, the Impressionist painter, they weren't trying to capture something as it is, but rather as we perceived it, because our perception is reality. And so this kind of strict empiricism runs contrary to the Christian worldview that says, no, there are things that we know that we cannot immediately perceive with our senses. There is more to this world than just the physical world. And so don't you see, the style of Impressionism itself communicates a message. And so I think that it's more important for us to realize that when we are evaluating art, we not only want to ask ourselves about the content of the art, but also its style, and might its style be itself communicating a message? You see, if all we look at is Monet and see, hey, it's a bunch of haystacks, what's the big deal? Right? We'd be missing the bigger message that is actually being communicated. Of course, a stack of hay doesn't have a moral quality one way or another, but if you've communicated that what is there is not stacks of hay, but more in particular stacks of hay as Monet perceived it, and therefore that becomes reality, then you've got a problem. Now, I realize there's all sorts of questions that this brings and raises to the table for Christians in evaluation of art. Does now music style matter? And that's going to take some hard work. It's going to take some homework. But if I use the example of Impressionism, we're less likely to become so emotionally attached or so emotionally involved in the issue that we reject the broader point that I'm making. It does seem clear that at least some of the time, style communicates a message, and therefore style does matter in the art. In fact, G.K. Chesterton said this about Impressionism. He said Impressionism, that final skepticism which can find no floor to the universe. You see, that kind of strict empiricism, the skepticism that results from the philosophy that was behind Impressionism, leaves you with no grounding for an ultimate reality. And so I hope that this has perhaps challenged you to think, if you're a Christian artist, what does your style, not just your content, communicate about your worldview? If you're a Christian who takes in the arts on a regular basis, like most of us are we paying careful attention to not just the message of the content, but also the message of the art style itself? Let me know what you think. I'd love for you to comment down below. What are some of the questions that you try and wrestle with as you consider the art that you consume or the art that you produce if you're a Christian artist? Be sure to subscribe, as I'll be trying to tackle more and more of these questions over time.